Ladies and gentlemen, Quinteto San Juan featuring Juan Suren. Hi, welcome to Entre, Nosotros on CCP TV, the educational channel of Community College of Philadelphia. I'm your host, Gilberto Gonzalez, and my guest today is Javier Suarez. Bienvenido, Javier.
Thank you, Gil. It's a pleasure.
Great. So I usually like to start off with I want the audience to know about who Javier is, how you got to Philadelphia, what is your background. So fill us in.
Sure. Getting to Philadelphia wasn't my choice. I was born here and very proud that's the case. My parents came from Colombia to come to Philadelphia to study, and they did not know each other when they came here. My mother studied at Moore College of Art and my father at Pierce College. And they would meet up at the International House at the University of Pennsylvania, where they would meet a lot of other Latino students, international students, and one thing led to another, and they decided to start a family in Philadelphia.
That's amazing. So then now you're born.
So now I'm born, and the rest of the story can happen. Very fortunate to live in different areas around the city. Mm-hmm. At times we lived, my earliest memories of living in Philadelphia are in West Oak Lane. Then we moved to Willingboro, New Jersey. And then when I was about 8 years old, we moved back to Philadelphia, to the northeast section, Holmesburg, part of Philadelphia, and that's really where I grew up. And went to grade school and to high school, Father Judge High School there.
Oh, wow.
And then it was just a great place for me to grow up. Made some wonderful friends that are still the best of friends today. And then continued my education by going to La Salle University, and graduated there with a communications degree. And it's served me very well.
Wow. So now, right, you're done college and stuff. So, and one of the things that I found really like just incredible, just your whole entrepreneurship history, your whole background, because and your community activism. So tell me how, like, where did this all begin? And
it starts at home. I didn't know any better. My mom and dad were just very active, especially my father. The things that were happening socially, whether we were in El Barrio or not, were very important to him. These were things that he would talk about. He would talk about his friends and their struggles and challenges. And you overhear things when you're a kid, and you begin to see how it affects your parents, and things that are important to your parents turn into being important to you.
did they go through any kind of like discrimination, like any battles with?
No, and neither did I. And yet, I don't think that it's ever taken anything away from me from always having that that empathy and that understanding that just because you're not going through something doesn't mean that others aren't, and that there aren't ways that you can be a part of their lives to contribute. Because we all go through challenges. For some people it may be social issues. For others it may be financial or health or other things. And so along the way, my father was one that always found the way to help people. Even though growing up where we did grow up, where we practically were the only minorities in the area, I just didn't go through that.
Wow. Wow. And then you're culturally, right? Like your Latino culture has been a part of your life, like your father.
Absolutely. Somos colombianos. And my mother and father couldn't come from two more distinct backgrounds if you tried. My mother's from Medellin, and my father is from a very tiny blip on the map in Colombia called Anselmo Nuevo. And I have an older brother. He was born in Bogota, the capital of the country. And so, like I said, they're very, very different. My mother came from a middle-class family, actually a little bit more well-to-do than middle class, and my father literally came from nothing. And so the fact that somehow they found their way to this great country is a wonderful story that if this program was 2 hours long, we could get into it.
Right. Something else about your father that I just wanted to touch on is that he's really, and I remember him when I was young, he's a musician.
Yeah, he was. In our house, I can't remember a time in my life when there wasn't music going on in the house. And I would wake up on a Sunday morning and it was either tango or, cumbia or salsa or boleros, los trios. It was just constant, it was the soundtrack, to our upbringing. It was always music in the house. So either he was playing someone's record or he was playing guitar in the house. And he just loved doing it. That love and that passion for music turned into an opportunity for him to be a musician in Philadelphia. And he would play in restaurants and then ultimately to bigger stages and platforms. And he developed a following where one by one, he would just play the songs that a lot of people wanted to hear that weren't being played on the radio.
Right.
And he's probably most well known for that, aside from all the other things that he did in Philadelphia and has done. But he's probably more known as the musician, and his nickname, his stage name, I should say, Artigalan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So now tell me a bit about your getting into your entrepreneurship and some of your passions, such as radio?
Well, radio started for me. My love affair with radio, and I'm not in the radio business anymore, but it started when I was a kid. We would travel to New York, and I would hear the radio stations up in New York. And I would come home, and I would sit with the smaller AM radios in my bed and try and pick up, on a clear night, Radio Wado, the AM stations that in New York at that time were powerhouses. And to listen to just the DJs. It wasn't just about the music, it was just hearing how they would talk. And so I fell in love with the radio business altogether. And so while I was in college, I decided that that was going to be my path. And I was incredibly fortunate that in Philadelphia alone, I worked at country radio stations, Latin radio stations, talk radio. And they were incredible experiences for me. They gave me discipline and structure in that world that I wasn't aware of, to be honest with you. I just loved the radio, but I didn't know radio. And it wasn't until I was thrown into the fire, and I worked in programming as well as I worked in the business side of the business, that I really kind of got my feet dug into the ground and began to understand how I was going to, how I was going to be able to contribute, with my professional career.
Cool, cool. And then also, there's a whole another side to you that also is just amazing, your community activism and some of the projects that you were a part of.
It's been a wonderful experience, and a lot of those things really just come down to the wonderful people that I know. When you get to hear people's stories and they share their passions with you, you feel like you just want to help out in any way you can. And so, it doesn't come down to something formal, let's say, like a fundraiser. It can come down to just helping someone, clean up an abandoned building or something like that. And that's what I've done a lot in my life, and I enjoy it. And again, it comes from my parents. I remember one time when there was a major landslide that killed thousands of people in Colombia. My father was one of those individuals that rallied the Colombian community here in Philadelphia to literally fill up an 18 tractor trailer truck with canned goods and clothing and basically everything that this small little town in Colombia was just buried under of dirt. And again, so I just don't know any other way than to try and help people in any way that I can. And the way that I'm helping people now is a lot of fun for me. It's about giving voice and life to the Latino professional market or individuals that are in the city of Philadelphia and getting them engaged with being more civic minded, being more socially conscious with what's going on in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And so I belong to different organizations and I serve on different boards, and always with that in mind, how can we as a group help other people who have passions and who have needs but aren't able to get to the next level because they're either doing it on their own or they're relying and waiting for some miracle to happen. Mm-hmm. We can kind of create some of those miracles by just listening to people. Mm-hmm. And asking, how can I help?
Right, and that's actually one of the things that I try to that I personally try to do in the city is I try to impact wherever I can, just to try to even get people heard in places. So like, for example, like one organization that is really good at getting people to be voices in different places is the Hispanic Chamber, mm-hmm. which I know you said you were in the room.
Yeah, you had asked me earlier if I was one of the founders. I said, no, I was in the room watching some of the founders get it together, but I remember when they started.
Right.
And I remember the sense of feeling that was in the room. And it's important because I think every one of us as Latinos in Philadelphia, we have these moments where you just sense like you need to belong to this important movement that's just about to take off. Mm-hmm. But it's important to actually help that movement sustain itself going forward. Starting something is often easy, but keeping it alive, sustaining it over a long period of time so that it can contribute to other people and it can be there for that next generation of entrepreneurs or business owners, that's the hard thing. You know, so we sometimes take for granted what people have struggled to put out there for us.
Right, you mentioned earlier that we as Latinos keep going back and starting at zero rather than, take off where somebody left off.
Yeah, this happens in all types of efforts, whether it's business, nonprofits, entertainment vehicles. You know, the next person comes along and says, you know, when I do it, it's going to be the biggest and the baddest and the greatest and all this stuff. And I go, that's great. It's been done before. But maybe what you could do is ask some of the people that tried before and see if you guys can kind of, you know, put something together, your drive and their expertise or their knowledge and their wisdom. You'd be surprised what might come about. Because there's some great pioneers in the city of Philadelphia. You know, one of the things that a lot of people don't know about me, and it's not that I'm the most well-known guy, but is that I'm a salsero, and I drive people crazy because I'm such a salsero that you know, I can listen to it 24 hours a day. But it's something that I love, but I know the exact moment when I became a salsero. And I mention this because it was one of the pioneers in Philadelphia that gave me that gift of falling in love with salsa. Now, a lot of people might say, that's just a form of music, and isn't salsa something you dance to or put on on some chips? To me, it's a religion. In my house, my mother and father, even though we're from Colombia, and Colombia has great salseros because of Cali and all that kind of stuff, they weren't into salsa. I remember in 1977 turning on the radio and listening to El Viaje with David Ortiz. I didn't know who he was, and I heard these sounds for the first time. You know, La Solución, Tommy Olivencia, Willie Rosario, El Gran Combo, and I went, okay, I have just found heaven.
This is it.
And since then, that a lot of music has really structured my life, even in my business side of things. But I want to give credit to the person who gave me that gift. It was the Rey Collazos of the world who were playing music back then, and Jesse Bermudez, who was bringing live events in the mid-70s, you know, and it was the David Ortiz who was trying to carve out an hour on radio somewhere, where the dynamics and the conditions were always changing for him, to try and stay on the air, and that gift was given to me, and I'll never forget that moment, and I know exactly where I was. And I'll tell that story to some people, and they'll go, I don't understand what you're talking about. And I go, it's okay, it's my story.
No, it's a wonderful story, though. I mean, because it's like it shows you that Latinos have been here.
Yes.
Right? We've been here for more than 100 years. We're a part of this city, but we still keep part of our culture, part of what makes us Latino too. But that doesn't deter from us being a part of the fabric of the city. It actually, I think, makes it better.
And the stories are incredible. One of the things that I like to do is to talk to high school students, and I ask them, I go, where are your parents from? And a lot of kids don't know. They'll say Puerto Rico, they'll say Cuba, Santo Domingo, but then I'll ask them a little bit more and they don't know. And I'll say, ask them. Sit down one day, go to your parents and ask them, Mom, Dad, Grandmom, whoever that person who loves you the most, ask them, where are you from? Tell me what it was like growing up when you were my age. And boom, these wonderful sounds come out of these people's mouths, and you just get a different perspective. I think we've gotten away from appreciating and embracing the people who came before us.
Right.
And that's why when you asked me to be on this show, I wasn't just happy about the fact that we might talk about things that might interest me. I was happy about the fact that you are lending your time to give voice to people who just care about what they're doing, and other people should be hearing about it.
Exactly. Which is great, because that's the other thing I wanted to touch on, is the other amazing thing that I actually have been attending for many years now is the Hispanic Choice Awards.
The Hispanic Choice Awards, yes.
Before we start, I just wanted to show the audience what the Hispanic Choice
Great.
is all about. So we're just gonna show you a 5-minute clip of the Hispanic Choice Awards.
Can you describe in one word the Hispanic Choice Awards?
Spectacular.
Welcome to the 10th Annual Hispanic Choice Awards. Watch as the extraordinary achievements of the Latino community in the Philadelphia, New Jersey, and Delaware regions are celebrated in the most highly anticipated event of the year. Join us now at Philadelphia's historic Merriam Theater to witness the live award show. Celux Axiom Productions and State Farm Insurance are proud to present the highlights of this 10th anniversary event.
So there you go, man. So like, tell me, like this is like got to be one of the most. It is to me the most amazing event ever in Philadelphia.
Wow.
I mean, I love this event.
Thank you. I just love watching what you're going to wear every year on the red carpet. It's amazing. Because you have fun with it.
Yeah.
And really that's the whole idea behind all of this. You know, the idea behind the show is not about highlighting just a few number of people. It's about giving us all an opportunity to celebrate who we are as Latinos in Philadelphia, as Latinos in the region. And I get the biggest kick out of it when people come up to me and say, you know, this show really made me feel special. So those are the things you just live for. Mm-hmm. And so we've had the wonderful, you know, honor of having over 1,000 people attend, let's say this past year at the Merriam Theater, the Hispanic Choice Awards, and then taping that and putting it on television, having even more families get a chance to see the show. It's been a wonderful ride. We celebrated 10 years in 2013. And, you know, we just feel like we're just getting started. We feel like, you know, our job is to just give people opportunities to come on out and get engaged with what's going on. Tell us about what you're doing, because we'd love to highlight it. You know, your stories are just as important as the mayor and anyone else who's doing good things in the city.
Now, some of the things that things that always stick out to me are, like, for example, I think last year you had Elena Del Valle.
Yes, your
host, and then the other aspect that I just really love is that people that get nominated and people that win come from Wilmington, come from New Jersey,
yes.
come from, you know, other towns in Pennsylvania. I mean, they just come, and Elaine's from New York. I mean, it's like you're bringing the whole entire East Coast to Philadelphia and really bringing light to what's going on.
That's our mission, is to connect people, connect Latinos, and maybe try new different ways of going about it. So our efforts in connecting Latinos might be housed in this award show, but in the end, we work all year long to make sure that we develop these relationships. They matter to us. And the stories that people have on how they got to where they're at are fascinating to me, you know, and where they came from and where they studied. All those things matter to me. And the show is just really that culmination of what the public has told us that they want to see. Because I will tell you that we don't choose the winners. We have a call for nominations, a process in which you can go to our website and you can easily just choose the person that you think is worthy of being recognized. Just tell us a little brief paragraph on why you think so. We have a nominating committee that reviews all the information. And we have different awards, whether it's Business Person of the Year, all the way to Education Champion of the Year, Lifetime Achievement Award. And we also have the Living Legend, that person who's just been out there doing great things for a long, long time. And they might be known for something. Let's say they're a great musical performer, but in their personal life, they're doing even greater things. And we've done that with so many wonderful, interesting people that we've actually visited their homes after they've won. to even just continue the relationship that we started with the Hispanic Choice Awards. And that's what we love to do. And so we thank the city, and we thank so many people who over the last 10 years have given us every opportunity to just present these awards.
One of those people you mentioned earlier was Virginia Ramirez.
Yes.
Who was, I think,
one of your own.
One of our own, who was involved very early on with you. So
she was. I have to tell you that CCP is a wonderful institution. CCP won a number of years back as one of the winners for higher educational institution. And you guys were so sweet about it. The president of the school invited us out to do an actual formal presentation of the award again here to the students, because he felt that the students should experience that. But I have to tell you that out of all of the university students that are here, and there's thousands of Latino university students, LASO, the Student Association here at CCP, is always the biggest, the loudest, the most vocal, and we love that the energy that runs through this school, and that I'm glad that the kids, the students that are at this school, feel that passion and want to share it with other people. That to me tells me that CCP is doing something right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Virginia is the advisor, is the current advisor, and she does a lot of great work with the students and actually trying to keep them here too. Because with all the stuff going on in the community, with the high dropout rate in the high schools and everything, Virginia is like a pillar here. I mean, she's one of the pillars for the Latino community, but also for the city, because she helps Latinos, but she also recruits for the entire city. She'll help any student that comes to her. She's
an amazing human being.
Yeah.
We haven't interacted. We're not closely. We're not, pals, I should say, or something like that. I would say we interact more on a professional level, but when you're in her presence, she just makes you always feel great, and that she makes kids feel like it's possible.
She won one year.
She did.
She did.
She did, and I remember her well because of the pictures that were taken of her, and the way she just held that award, that trophy up, and she felt so proud, and I felt so happy for her at that moment.
Cool.
A well-deserved honor for her.
Great. That's all the time we have today. I would like to thank my guest, Javier Suarez, for joining me, and I would like to thank you for tuning in. You have been watching Entre Nosotros on CCP TV, the educational channel of Community College Philadelphia. See you next time.